Bernie Sanders officially won the New Hampshire primary. He won by about 2 percentage points, roughly 4,000 or so, maybe 4,500 votes. It's a win. It counts as a win. Unfortunately, though, the margin of victory was bigger in Iowa, but they're still trying to, take that victory from him and give Mayor Pete the state delegate elects, which determines the victor. But they're doing a recanvass, so they're basically recounting. And if you actually fix all of the outstanding issues, Bernie Sanders wins in Iowa as well. There are specific mistakes that people can point to and say, hey, delegate here, delegate there, you totally missed this precinct and it went to Bernie. If you fix everything, Bernie Sanders wins Iowa by every conceivable metric, and Bernie Sanders wins New Hampshire, so he's 2 for 2. Now, what you're about to see here is a clip from MSNBC. Bernie Sanders got an unlikely assist. And the assist is from the media, which hates him. Take a look.
If Bernie Sanders, though, doesn't run away with it, isn't this...
Well, he hasn't even... Look, he can't run away with it. Look, last time, 4 years ago, sitting right here, Bernie Sanders won 60% of the vote. So the story of the Sanders campaign so far this year is how much ground he's lost from 4 years ago. He's lost half of his support in New Hampshire. He's lost half of his support nationwide.
What about over here? Who did you vote for?
I voted for Bernie. Although there are a number of candidates that I really like, and so I felt like when I finished voting, I was still undecided, including Elizabeth, including Michael Bennett, for that matter.
Now, that's sort of a paradox, to decide and then feel undecided. So you're a complex person.
Right. Well, yes, but I want to say the reason I went for Bernie is because of MSNBC. And
Go on.
I think it is completely cynical to say that he's lost 50% of his vote from the last time when there were 2 candidates. Now there are multiple wonderful candidates who would be great presidents and people that I think that we can unify and get behind. But the kind of the stop Bernie cynicism that I heard from a number of people, I watch MSNBC constantly, so I heard that from a number of commentators, and so it made me angry enough. I said, okay, Bernie's got my vote.
So the media relentlessly piling on against Bernie Sanders actually backfired. And it ended up helping Bernie Sanders, at least in this case with this one woman. But I think you can replicate that many times over. I think it's a fair bet to say roughly the same amount of people that they turned off to Bernie Sanders, they turned on to Bernie Sanders. So some people look at the coverage and they go, that's ridiculous. Now I support the guy more. Other people might fall for the propaganda. But, what this shows is it's transparent. It's transparent. Anybody who's paying attention goes, that doesn't quite sound right. I mean, look at that argument that they're making right there. Oh, Bernie Sanders, sure, he won New Hampshire, but last time he got 60% of the vote. This time he only got 26 or 27% of the vote. So obviously there was a giant collapse. Last time he was running against one, deeply unpopular politician, namely Hillary Clinton. This time he was running against 10 people. Of course you're going to get a smaller percentage of the vote. Of course you're going to get fewer votes. And what they do is they bend over backwards to try to craft a narrative against Bernie. And it's really transparent, man. I mean, they hide all of the positive stuff about him, too. Like, for example, there was a giant increase in turnout among younger people. There was also an increase in turnout from 2008. So 2008, of course, is what they view as the benchmark standard because it's when, Barack Obama won. So they think we'll know the Democrats are doing okay if it's at or exceeds 2008 levels. And what we had in this election was, in New Hampshire, it did exceed 2008 levels. Now, that is a little more complicated. It depends on how exactly you calculate it. There are different ways to calculate it. Do you do it as a percentage of the population? Do you do it as a, raw vote total? But by some metrics, he beat 2008 levels. And of course, turnout among young people was up massively. So he won. I mean, listen, they're trying to say that oh my God, this was amazing for Klobuchar because she came in third place. And contrast that with how they're talking about the person who's in first. Chuck Todd said the other day, I have no idea why anybody would call Bernie the front runner. You don't? You won the first two contests. He got the most votes in the first two contests, and you don't understand that? You know, the position he's sitting in the upcoming states is by far and away better than anybody else right now. I got bad news for Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar, who, you know, are the ones who are considered to have, that they're saying have momentum right now. They're about to hit a wall. Why? Because, you know, Iowa and New Hampshire are lily white states, man. Now we're moving to states that have large populations of people of color. And Bernie's doing fantastically well with people of color. And Amy Klobuchar and Mayor Pete have non-existent support among people of color. In California, up until like last week, Mayor Pete didn't even have a single office open. He was banking on a springboard effect from Iowa and New Hampshire. And, you know, what's happened is even to the extent he got any bump at all, he's at 6% in the poll in California. Way below like three other candidates. Bernie's got a big lead there. So, but again, take a moment and reflect on how they're talking about this. The guy who came in first and the guy who came in first in Iowa and New Hampshire, they're trying to downplay it. And what are they doing? They're trying, oh my God, Klobmentum. There's a debate now. Is it Klobmentum or Klomentum? When you talk about, you know, Amy Klobuchar outperforming the polls. And here's the good news, guys. This is very, very reminiscent of 2016 on the Republican side. It really is. Matt Taibbi wrote a wonderful article about this that I was reading last night. It's really incredible. And he was laying out all the parallels. Because again, you know, it happened in 2016. You had the candidates picking apart, or excuse me, the hosts on TV picking apart the rest of the race and just kind of like excluding Trump. So Trump actually lost Iowa in 2016. Ted Cruz was the winner in Iowa. And Trump was up in the polls leading into Iowa. And I remember because I predicted that Ted Cruz would win Iowa because, you know, sometimes Iowa throws curveballs at you. And what happened in New Hampshire was Trump won by a large margin, but Kasich came in a surprise second place. And so the argument from the media was, oh my God, guys, Kasich's the one. Look at this. He's got Kasich Mentum. Okay, they didn't say that, but still, they were trying to say that Kasich was the big winner of New Hampshire when Trump won. In Iowa, they used Marco Rubio's third place finish to say, Rubio Mentum. Here he comes, Marco Rubio. So think about it. In the race leading up to the Iowa caucus in 2016 on the GOP side, the talk nonstop. Oh my God, Jeb Bush. He's a front runner. His last name is Bush. Oh my God, that's great. Oh my God, it's so wonderful. He got waxed, son. He got waxed in Iowa. So they were like, okay, we got to move on from him. Anyway, who's next? Marco Rubio. Yeah, Marco Rubio. And then by New Hampshire, John Kasich. Yes, John Kasich. Rubio gave a speech after Iowa when he came in third like he won. Does that sound familiar? That's what frickin' Pete has been doing, even though he's gotten fewer votes in both states. And so there's been a scramble all along. And with Trump, it got to the point where they even were like, okay, fine, we'll take Cruz over Trump. And the media was trying to pump up Cruz. It didn't work. And you had basically the establishment candidates split their vote in 1,000 ways and left a path for Donald Trump. That's exactly what's happening this time with Bernie. Now you have, all the other candidates, by the way, including Elizabeth Warren, who's now, they're all splitting the vote between themselves. Biden, who's low energy Jeb this time around, is just getting absolutely obliterated. Amy Klobuchar, Mayor Pete, Elizabeth Warren, all of them are splitting this centrist vote. And Bernie's the last one standing. And so the parallels are absolutely amazing, but also the media coverage is unbelievably similar. And this is nominally the liberal network. And man, they hate Bernie Sanders to the point where even your average voter is like, what are you doing? You're making me like him more. So much like 2016 when there was all the hair on fire coverage about Donald Trump. Now, I'm a fan of covering Donald Trump aggressively, but you have to use good arguments. I try not to do the thing where in mainstream media, they'll take they'll take a tweet he wrote and they'll act like when it's just like a joke tweet, like, oh my God, this is the end of, the United States of America. Like when he tweets the thing where it shows like Trump 2020, 2024, 2028, so on and so forth. And it shows like him winning elections for like the next 100 years. And the media takes that as if like Trump hints that he will be a dictator. That's what he's doing. And it's like, what? Stop. You're so ridiculous and over the top. I like to cover Trump, in a way where it's accurate and it's aggressive, but it's fair. They're like, fuck the fairness part. We're just going to go after him in any way possible. And that's exactly what they're doing against Bernie. And I'm happy to see that, at least in some instances, it's backfiring and people see through it. So we really should be thanking the media because there is a chance it is a net benefit. I think worst case scenario, it's a wash. The same number of people they're turning off, they're also turning on to him. But it's possible it's even a net benefit for him. And one of the things I've come to really appreciate about Bernie is the way he's been handling his detractors. Like the new thing is James Carville's been, trashing Bernie going all around mainstream media. And they asked Bernie about it. And Bernie says, James Carville, with all due respect, is a political hack. And he's saying things about me very, very similar to what he said about Barack Obama in 2008 when he was with the Clintons. And like his whole tone, it's not like me where I go over the top with it and I'm like aggressive. He handles all of his detractors like they're, he's the dad and they're the toddler in the back seat throwing a tantrum on the road trip. And he's got this vibe to him like, how about you shut the fuck up? And it's like calm, but it's also good. So that's how he's handling it. And I think that's working. I think people look at that and they get that similar vibe. It's like, oh, that's why, we call him America's dad, is that he's acting like America's dad. Like all the other noise is like, this is all noise. It's ridiculous. I'm going to get you healthcare. So people see through it. The media is failing. The other candidates are failing. And now we have the momentum going forward. No matter what they tell you about Pete, no matter what they tell you about Klobuchar, Biden was his biggest competition moving forward, man. The polls all reflected it was a race between Bernie and Biden. And Biden collapsed. What, did he get a 4th place and a 5th place in Iowa and New Hampshire? And he's trying to pretend like those races didn't happen. And now the firewall, the new polls are coming out. The firewall is gone skis. Bernie's now leading in North Carolina. Come on and raise up. Take your shirt off. Twist it around your head. Spin it like a helicopter. So we have good signs. And the media is shooting themselves in the foot, and I'm here for it.